Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and happy Friday, Palace fans. This is the Daily Palace podcast brought to you by the Global Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host today, Alex Waite, and I'm joined by Joe Lodge. How are you doing, Joe?
Very well. Thanks, Alex. Thanking God it's Friday, as you say.
We're at the end of the week, which feels like a very long week. It feels like the first proper week since Christmas where it's like been really back to normal. But we have football to keep us entertained and to keep the January blues away. Especially if you're a Palace fan at the moment, things are going pretty smoothly, so that's all good. Right, so today we're going to look at some pre-match news as we take on Brentford this Sunday at Selhurst Park. We'll be looking at some of Glasner's comments about the upcoming game, and we'll end with some score predictions. So to get started, Joe, just a bit of team news, nothing too major, but the biggest news is that Doucouré and Chadi Riyad are ruled out for Sunday. They joined the likes of Adam Wharton, Jefferson Lerma and Franca in the treatment room. So those two, Doucouré and Riyad, is there any kind of worry about those two being out, or do you think it will be a kind of unchanged 11 from West Ham? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be pretty much the same 11 that did take the field against West Ham, as you say. But that doesn't mean there's no worry with them being out. So definitely Riyad, I don't see a situation in which he would have started if he was fit. You wouldn't tinker with a back three that has kept 2 clean sheets in the 2 previous games. And as I was talking with Wale about this yesterday, I really feel at the moment Richards, in terms of compensating what's been lost from Chelobah, is the one who makes more sense to go in there for just the balance in the back three. However, it's sort of more concerning about, I think, is, as far as I'm aware, Glasser didn't really give us any information about the nature of these injuries or when they'd be back. He just sort of said, yeah, they're out. And that's a little bit ominous because Palace have a system that requires 3 centre-backs, and at the moment they have 3 fit centre-backs. So it's on a knife edge, really. And you do want at least one option off the bench if one of them gets injured or suspended. So if Riyad is out for the long haul, that is a bit worrying for Palace. I kind of think Doucouré, with Lerma also out, then Doucouré, you sort of think maybe could have been in line for a start in this one. I think the way that Brentford play is kind of, they do move the ball quickly through the middle of the pitch these days, and having a more defensive-minded midfielder in there than Kamara might have been good to snub them out. Kamara did do really well against West Ham. He got 5 combined tackles and interceptions, but you'd still slightly worry about him if they're going to charge straight at him and move the ball quickly. And given that counter-attacking, fast-paced, incisive style that Brentford developed, I think Hughes will be on a yellow within 5 minutes. So,
if there's a given from this match, it's a Hughes yellow. Yeah.
The bigger concern than any of the individual injuries, I think, is I've failed my driving test twice, and I've not done a third one. Partly, I think, because there's a bit of ego there that thinks this proves it's not bad luck if I fail again. And are Palace reaching that point when it comes to rehabilitating players where you think so many players, you keep hearing, oh no, they're nearly back, or they even do play a bit like Doucouré and Riyad, and then suddenly they're back on the treatment table for an indefined period of time. I think that this seems to have happened to Franca before he's even really played a game for Palace, that he's slipped into this routine, and apparently he's back on the grass now. But I believe that he's actually a footballer when I see it, because I don't know. I don't know anything about it, and I'm like cast aspersions on the Palace medical team, but you do think like why did so many players get long term or what seemed like innocuous injuries just develop into season long layoffs?
It's like you can, like you say, you can speculate about these things. And like under Hodgson, we had similar problems, like a lot of like hamstring injuries and injuries from basically forcing players to play too many games. But I don't know. Like under Glasner, I think Wharton's he was pushed to injury because he just played so much, and we knew he had problems and was playing with injections and stuff. And then I think it was that Villa game; it was just all too much, and he obviously went down off the ball, and that's been it since when was that, October? Some of these can be due to style, but I think Riyad's been a bit unfortunate. He hasn't had a sustained run, but he has looked really good. And like Decore, we know what promise he's got, but it's a shame. Like if they're out for long term, like Glasner did just say that they're knee injuries. Like didn't let on any more than that, which is frustrating as a fan because you want to stay in the loop and know if they're out long term or not. But those are the breaks at the moment. A bit of other team news is that Romaine Esse will be in the squad. Glasner alluded to in his press conference. What do you think about his situation, Joe? Obviously, he's a young player, hasn't played in the Premier League before. Do you think he'll get any minutes on Sunday, or do you think it'll be a case of bedding him into the first team and then slowly introducing him? What do you reckon?
Well, I think the priority does have to be bedding him in and introducing him slowly. I don't think I expect to see him becoming a starter anytime soon, just based on his kind of output and record in the Championship. It's very good for a player of his age, but it doesn't look like he's necessarily Prem ready in the way that the players that Parallel's been drawn to, and Eze and Elise who were clearly a demonstrator they were ready for the step up and been some of the best players in the league. So I don't want the pressure of being a proper starter, gets loads of minutes, to be on him straight away. But I think he's ready to contribute and he's got something different about him. So I could see him getting on. I think it'll basically depend on the game state, really. So I think if Brentford have got their noses ahead, we're going into sort of the last half hour and they're bedding in and defending well, you can see why he could come on. That's what he can offer, is diminutive, probably capable of picking a lock in a way that Sarr, however good he's been, doesn't really do. I think he does need space to run into, and I don't think that's so true of Esse from what we know of him. So I think there could be a situation, a game state in which what he offers becomes really useful. It's again, he can pick that lock. He's also got the benefit of, if you play him on the right, he will naturally cut in on his left, and that kind of frees up space for Munoz, who's not over there, who's obviously one of Palace's most dangerous players. But I think if Palace are ahead going into the last half hour, I could more see getting Nketiah on for sort of reliability, experience, possibly and another chance for him to get a goal to boost his confidence, or even you kind of see Jeffrey Schlupp coming on the forward position with these kind of partly for just uninspired substitution. Also, he could be off in January, and he'd want the chance to play again in front of Selhurst. If this ends up being his last one, then they might get Schlupp on for a bit of fun.
A Palace, a Schlupless Palace is like, it's not a world that I want to live in, mate.
I know. It'd be like when the Galacticos sold Claude Makélélé. They didn't realise how important he was until he'd gone.
It sort of feels like a bit of a fever dream. Like Trump's back in office. Schlupp might be leaving Palace. What's going on? Right, we're going to take a quick ad break there. And after the break, we'll be looking at Thomas Frank and the job that he's doing at Brentford. So stick with us after this break. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencaster came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencaster. Hello and welcome back to the Daily Palace podcast. I am your host today, Alex Waite, and I'm joined by Joe Lodge. We're just going to look at now some quotes that Glasner came out with about Thomas Frank. So just in a nutshell, he basically said that he has a lot of respect for Frank, and the strategy is the word that he used that he's implemented at Brentford, and he just said that he's doing a great job. And also he kind of mentioned a few areas that we'd have to be careful against, like their quick transitions, their high press, which has led to quite a lot of number of their goals. I don't know the exact number, but obviously with Wisse and Mbeumo, two of the best as an attacking duo, probably one of the best in the Premier League at the moment. He also said, though, that about their away versus home form, they've obviously only had one away win this season, Brentford. That was against the whipping boys Southampton, 5-0. But Joe, I just wanted to ask you about Frank and the kind of job that he's doing at Brentford. Like every manager, pre-match, post-match that I've seen just speaks so highly of him. Like, I know that football's all nicey these days. Sound very old there, but it's sort of like everyone has a great testament to Frank about the job that he's done with a Brentford side that is punching above their weight. Do you think that he's one of the best Premier League managers right now?
I certainly think he's done one of the best jobs in the league. I didn't believe there could be a Frank in Prem managerial history that would exceed Lampard, but I think he may have done that. It's what's really impressive, I think, about Frank is in an era of sort of defined styles of play and philosophies, he's actually kind of coached two really different styles for Brentford in two periods, and both of them have allowed them to punch above their weight and stay pretty consistently clear of any real talk or threat of relegation, despite having really limited resources. So when they came up, they played this like really turgid, not good to watch, but effective football, which revolved around stopping other teams playing, tactical fouls, being really good from set pieces. Their second season, that kind of really reached its zenith, where they conceded just 1.2 goals a game, scored 1.5, finished ninth. I remember Klopp and Guardiola kind of admirably bemoaning how tough they were to play against. And you can really see like these elements of their play have definitely been like influencing the top managers in the league. I'm sure part of Arteta's game plan has come from observing and learning from teams like Brentford. And then they kind of found themselves in a position where, with Ivan Toney's long-term suspension and later moving, it didn't really suit their best players anymore, that system. There were players like Mbeumo and Wisse who had to take up the mantle and probably prefer the game a little bit more open and transitional, and so he turned them from this three at the back defensive turgid team to a 4-3-3 fairly sort of nice energetic football team that play with the ball on the ground, move through the gears really quickly, and totally different style, and yet equally effective, and they're 11th now, still punching well above their weight. I think that is very impressive to show that kind of flexibility, and is abnormal in an era of specialists. I also think there's a lot to be said for his kind of admirable by his personality. I think that he's definitely a good leader for a team like Brentford who are going to endure tough runs. And I remember them doing lots of really bad runs of form when no one's ever really panicked. And I think a lot of it is to do with the way he holds himself, the way he speaks, and the way he doesn't let his team get too down or too excited. He's the manager you'd most like to be your dad during exam season. Just a really calming presence in the house. If you're at a bad day, sort of contextualize and learn from it, move on. And he's just, kind of, he exudes calm and competence whilst being kind of friendly and approachable and fun. I think that's all difficult stuff to marry, and it's got to make him a really good leader for a team in Brentford's position. So I think he's well up there. It's pretty hard to look past Pep Guardiola as the best manager in the league, I'd say.
Well, at the moment, maybe not, but yeah, in terms of over the last 5 years or so, 100%. I think especially with how he's improved Wissa this season in particular is sort of combines what you've said there about his tactical nous and his personable approach, because saw something the other day that Wissa in an interview said 2 years ago he didn't even think he would be a professional footballer, and now he's one of the highest scorers in the Premier League this season. And it's just a testament to how good the manager is that he kind of instills that belief. And actually I see a lot of similarities, some stylistically and in terms of character, between Frank and Glasner. Like the don't panic, the stick to, the tactics, and like get to know the players and their strengths. Like it kind of gives us hope as a fan base at Palace that we've got a manager who's similar and, can get the best out of the players in a system that's like exciting to watch as well. Like Brentford at the moment are very exciting because they concede a lot and they score a lot as well. And it's just like the ultimate kind of what you want from your football team. So it's exciting times for Palace and Brentford at the moment, who are sort of quite similar in where they're at. So you kind of mentioned it a bit there, Joe, in your analysis of Thomas Frank. But what do you think we can expect from Brentford on Sunday at Selhurst Park?
Yeah, well, I think the game, both teams will want to play in a semi-similar way. I said probably more of an emphasis on pressing and attacking generally from Brentford, but basically both teams are quite happy to invite the opposition onto them to strike quickly. So it'll be cat and mouse, or maybe more mouse on mouse kind of affair here. I think you'll see the standard. I don't think there'll be like any major tweaks to how Brentford play every week. It'll be fast transitions on the ball, high octane, and leaky. And I think there'll be chances for Palace's front three to exploit on the day.
Yeah, hopefully that is the case. Although we've kept 2 clean sheets in a row, I think that they'll have weaknesses in our defence to exploit as well. Like, you mentioned Kamada there. Perhaps not most well suited to this game, and maybe Munoz as well. Like, I think they 2 players that they might try and look at to use their press and use it to effect. That's part 2 of the Daily Palace pod, and after this short break we're going to be making some score predictions, so stick with us after this. This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network, every club, every day. Welcome back to part 3 of the Daily Palace podcast. Myself and Joe Lodge are looking ahead to the Palace versus Brentford game this Sunday at Selhurst Park. So we've done some analysis in parts 1 and 2. We're just going to end this episode by giving our score predictions. So, Joe, you said that this could be a mouse and mouse matchup on Sunday. And yeah, there could be a few areas for both teams to exploit. So do you think this is going to be a high scoring game, or do you think it might be uncharacteristically cagey? What do you reckon your score prediction is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I could sort of see it going either way. So the volume of goals is maybe the bit of the prediction that I'm least sure of. I think Palace will win, and I've put down 2-1 as a sort of cop-out answer, but it really could be anything. The reasons that I think Palace will be able to do it, though, is they'll get chances and their forward players are in good form. I think that makes a difference. So Flecken makes more saves per game than any keeper in the league since Pickford for Sunderland 7 years ago, is what I read earlier. So They do concede opportunities, and I think Palace will fancy their chances to get a few. I think they'll score more than one, would be my guess. I do worry about Brentford on the counter and pressing. I think they could hurt Palace for the reasons you've set out, but there are other areas where Palace can exploit them, and I think they're further from their strongest lineup in terms of injuries. Got their fullbacks are really makeshift, aren't they, right now? So they've just signed like guy from Fiorentina. I'm not sure if he'll really be ready to play this one yet. If he's not, then that means it's probably Keane Lewis-Potter, who's a forward really at left back, who Sarr and Munoz will fancy their chances against, and Roslev, who's not much of an attacking threat at right back, which probably helps at the other end of the pitch because it means Mitchell can double up on Burma and give Gahey and Lacroix a hand there. Hopefully the Whisters tempted enough by the move to Nottingham Forest, so they've bid like 22 million for them. I hope that's tempting enough to at least distract.
Well, Nuno came out and it was like, I don't know what that's about, but I think that's a classic case of like they've probably put a bid in. He's like, oh no, yeah, and then tomorrow it'll be done. Like he's playing a bit dumb there, I think, but yeah. But it's all speculation, isn't it? That can impact a player who's in form.
Can distract a player, yeah. If he's off it and they can double up on Burmo, then that's the two biggest threats kind of dealt with in the Brentford side. So there are a few things that, and then the obvious point of, you say Brentford have only won once away from home all season. So I think all those things together, basically where the two teams are at the moment, I'd think if it was at Brentford, Palace would lose, and if it's at Selhurst, Palace would win. And I think that probably just about swings it as a Palace win. But it could be anything from 1 to 5-4.
Yes, I was like this the other week with Dan when we were predicting Leicester. Like Brentford are a much better team than Leicester, but it's just that kind of mid-table, potentially mid-table, two very even teams in terms of quality and like where they're at, and it just frightens me to no end. Like I sort of see the bigger games against the bigger teams as like, we could nick something, like we're still the underdog here. But it's these games where I'm just always a bit more cautious. Like we're never gonna steamroller a team that's like lower to mid-table in the Premier League. So I'm thinking a 1-1, like just play it safe, keep our unbeaten run going. That's obviously important at the moment for us to build momentum. And a point against Brentford, who are very good, is, I think it is a positive. I think Glasner as well today was talking about our home form. Like we haven't won too many at home this season in the league. And I think he wants to change that. It seems like he's desperate to, bring some of that good form, like winning form, back to Selhurst Park. So we could go at them and, get get a 2-0 or 3-1 or something. But I just have to play it cautiously, man. I just think, 1-1.
3 games in a row does feel.
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember the last time we won 3 games in a row.
What? Yeah, is it just the 2 league wins in a row now for Palace?
I think it is. Yeah. I can't. Yeah, because we beat Stockport in between, was it?
Yeah.
Or before, yeah. So 3.
Yeah.
3 in all competitions, but would have taken that a couple of months ago, 100%. So things are looking up at Selhurst Park, which is good. Right, that's been the Daily Palace podcast for another episode. If you want to get any more information or check out any of our other podcasts, we're on Spotify and YouTube and other platforms. So check us out there and give a listen to our other episodes this week. Give us 5 stars as well if you can, wherever you get your podcasts, because that will help massively getting us discovered. Join us again next week, where hopefully we'll be discussing a Palace 1-1 draw at home against Brentford. Catch us next week. Thanks again, Joe, as well, for joining me.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks. Catch everyone next week.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.